I'm Angelica Ross, and you're listening to You Might Know Her From with Ann and Damien.
Hello, Tis. Kim Cattrall is coming back to And Just Like That, baby. We manifested it here. You heard it here first that everybody was manifesting Samantha's return to the horrific show that is And Just Like That. But you know that Ann and Damien, that's me and my friend here, we were really pushing for the show to, I don't know what we were pushing, but we were on Kim Cattrall's side.
We are always on Kim Cattrall's side, and we wanted the show to reckon with Samantha, because I felt like they were just using her in season 1 of this reboot to like bolster the show, because we were all struggling to accept it with just the 3 of them. I have to say, like, I'm happy for her because I think she did it on her terms, which is to say no one else from the original team was on set. It's a phone call, and she asked that Pat Field dress her, which she did. And of course, the great lesbian Patricia Field did not agree to participate in And Just Like That, which I also love. So I feel like
they're best friends.
Did it. Yeah. And I love that she got to do it on her terms, but I do kind of secretly wish that she would have just said fuck you to all of them, because I feel like it was the biggest fuck you of all time. I mean, for one of the biggest zeitgeisty shows to have ever entered our orbit, for her to be I absolutely will not come back, and say it multiple times in multiple mediums. I just thought it was so badass. But if she's gonna do it, and it still sounds like a piece of shit moment that they're gonna give us, but I'm happy for her. She also is super responsive to fans online. I think she's still I don't think she was ever verified, and now she's choosing to continue to be unverified on Twitter. But I just love her. I feel like she wants to live a British life, and she's manifesting that for herself, and I'll never not love her.
Our old Liverpool's Rose.
Liverpool's Cleopatra.
That's for real, guys. That's real, folks. Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, but I can also talk about it just like that and Sex and the City ad nauseum, and so I am excited by the little carrot that they're dangling. And also, do you remember we watched the finale? You, me, and our larger college group of friends watched the finale together, and I brought poppers. Why? I don't know. And someone was I think Brenna was I think it's done. I think we got our last mention of her, and they're phasing it out. And I was if we get a mention of her, we all have to do poppers. And then it was that was when she goes to Paris to see her, and we all were I was passing poppers around while I was crying.
It really was such a moment. And also, it was still mid-pandemic, and we were all just we were still just struggling to hold on to whatever we could. Everything was heightened. So I'll be interested to see what continues after this, and if Kim Cattrall will be do you think there's going to be a season 3, and do you think that there's any version where she presents her physical body on set with the other 3 women?
I think at this point, if they're teasing a cameo in the finale and the show is I assume it will come back yet again, then yes, because I thought no, never. I thought last year she did that thing, and it was her, Darren Star, Candace Bushnell, and Patricia Field, and I was oh, they all hate Sarah Jessica Parker, and they're all together to celebrate Kim Cattrall. I love it. And then she was I'll never fucking do it again. It was disgusting. They all had real storylines, and my storyline was I got up a pooch. I literally adopted a dog, and also got a belly. Those were the stories they were giving me when everyone else was getting acting things, and I was these are all great points, honestly. I was great, she's never coming back. And now she was okay, cool, I'll take the money and I'll film something on my own terms. So maybe she'll come back in a supporting role. I will say, we haven't even introduced the show yet, but I will say that the show made such a point. There's that famous quote where I think it's Charlotte says, what if we're each other's soulmates? And so for that all to get diluted into this new reincarnation where the bit is oh, she fired you as I fired her as a publicist and she fired me as a friend, is that's not what the show is about. And I know friendships change and evolve, because that is life. But this is a fantasy world where you guys are 4 best friends. So, that was a weird way to set it up, not to make the choice not to kill her, but then to be she broke the friendship because of, money. It's I would hate them too if I was her.
Yeah, no, I'm actually totally fine with the friend breakup storyline. I feel it's very real and true to life. But to your point, like the show is not dealing with anything in any version of reality. So I feel like what I loved about the original series that I personally did not love about the movies was that, like, to your point, the whole thing is like, what if we're each other's soulmates? I feel like the series didn't end with that. It ended with like Big going to go get her and the girls being like, yeah,
go get our girl.
I was like, fuck this shit. This is not the ethos of the show that I fell in love with.
True.
And so for me, the movies, while like fun and ridiculous, were not like in the same universe, the way that this show is not in the same universe of like the original series. So if they really wanted to deal with like a friend breakup, the way that Miranda was so mad at Carrie, the way that they all showed up for her when her mother died, like those were the true friendship moments of the series that I felt rang clear and beautifully accurate about like being in your 30s in New York City. But I don't think that I think they did Samantha dirty. So I hope that Kim Cattrall does what Patti LuPone did when she sued Andrew Lloyd Webber for firing her from Sunset Boulevard, and she like got a multi-million-dollar settlement and built a huge pool in the back of her house in Connecticut and calls it like the Andrew Lloyd Webber Memorial Pool. So I feel like hopefully Kim Cattrall is building like a SJP infrared sauna or whatever she wants at her estate in London with this money, because I just want her to come out on top of all of this.
Me too. And with all of that beautiful Kim Cattrall
prologue.
Prologue. Welcome to the show. Welcome to You Might Know Her From.
With Ann and Damien.
I'm Damien.
I'm Ann. Just for what it's worth, I'm in a sports bra right now recording from my childhood home in Missouri while Damien was like, it's so hot. And he was like, just take off your shirt. And I was like, you know what? This is a first for us. I am recording in a sports bra and it is officially summertime. It's Pride Month. And if you don't know this show, I guess I should probably tell you that it's something I do with Damien here. We've been doing it for like coming up on 5 years. Is that right? We're 5 seasons in. We've been recording over 100 episodes. And this is our show where we shoot the shit with each other and talk about pop culture comings and goings. And then we talk to an actress each episode and dive deep into their career, the ins, the outs, the highs, the lows, and also, every once in a while, a little bit of gossip. But I had this very silly realization this month where I was like, oh my God, why did I never make the connection that the Tonys happened during Pride Month? What a beautiful thing. It made me so, so happy. Also, congratulations, Aaron, on your continued Tony success. We were so proud of you.
Yeah, the Tonys, well, they were a thrill. I mean, they're always a thrill for me, and it was thrilling watching them try to figure out how to do it without writers.
You know what? I'm like, this is no scab commentary here because I feel like every writer should be paid accordingly, and I'm ready for SAG and DGA to like be on strike as well. But I feel like the show actually benefited from a little bit of the unpredictability of not having anybody write bits. Like I was actually very charmed by Ariana DeBose not knowing who was coming next and being like, I wrote something on my arm, but I can't remember it. So welcome to whoever's coming out next. I was like, this is good live TV.
Yeah, I was into that too. Yeah, it is Pride Month. So here we are. We are here. We are queer. We are not.
It's also WNBA season, Damien.
Yeah, baby. I went to my first WNBA game. I have to tell you, I went to my first WNBA game, and it was one of the most fun days I've had in recent memory. I felt like I took Molly and was just so happy in Barclays Center. Ann's partner, Hannah, did such a good job of, like, telling me all of the, like, backstory on all of the players and what positions they played and where they played previously and like who were sisters and who maybe had crushes on each other and who was on the team last year. And so when I got there, I just felt so invested in all of it, and we were so close and the energy was so great, and I really was just like felt euphoric. It was so fun, and it made me feel I was very interested, and now I'm invested and I want to go back.
I'm so glad. I feel like it was the best case scenario. The Pride game is the best game of the year every single season. So if you haven't been yet, please get your tickets. They are like, it's much more crowded at Barclays these days because the New York Liberty are a super team. But I have to say, I had like a life highlight, not just because Damien finally came to a WNBA game and it was so much fun, but because because we were hanging out, we were there very early, and some man came over to us with a clipboard and was like, excuse me, do you play basketball? And I was like, no, I haven't played basketball since I was like 12 years old. And Damien and Hannah were both like, oh, yes, she does. Yes, she does. I was like, no, I literally don't. Please, I haven't played in years. They're like, well, do you want to participate in one of these like halftime activities? And I was like, no, I think I'm good. And they're like, you have to do it. You have to do it. So I like somewhat begrudgingly, like just full of anxiety, signed my life away on this waiver with this man who came to get me in the middle of the third quarter and bring me like backstage at Barclays. And then I got to meet the person that I was going to be competing against during this like free throw contest where I had to make as many as I could in 45 seconds. And so then they like gave us a ball to familiarize ourselves with it backstage. And then there were like the Timeless Torches, which is the 40 plus dance crew who were backstage coming and going and saying hi. And like the hype crew was like hyping us up. And so then they brought us out. And I really felt like I was in a fugue state. Like we went out into the center of Barclays and they like just throw a ball at me and they start the clock and I start shooting. And I was like, I'm missing all of these horribly. I just need to make one. Like, I don't need to win. I just want to make one so I don't embarrass my childhood self. So I shot. I missed. I was like, Anne, this is a losing performance.
We were clenched. Our jaws were clenched on the stadium.
It really was like, it was so mortifying. I was like, just please, I just need one to go in. And then like maybe 20 seconds in, one finally fell and then they just kept falling. And I think I made 8 total, which I felt was totally respectable. And then the next thing I knew, somebody came running up behind me and was like, name. And then they took me to center court. I told them Anne, and then I was on the Jumbotron, and then they asked me something and I said something, and then they handed me a giant cardboard check. And then I got to hug Ellie, the elephant mascot for the Liberty, and then they just escorted me back to my seat. So I got this giant check, which I would have loved to say was a cash prize, but it was actually a round trip coach Amtrak ticket. Actually, it's 2. You know what I mean? And I love the Amtrak. So I'm not complaining. I'm super grateful. I would have been happy to win anything, but it really was. I don't think I can ever top that experience of like getting to go center court at Barclays and shoot hoops and actually win. It was
so
fucking thrilling.
I went from my teeth being clenched to literally like screaming, and then I believe me and Hannah cried. So
it was a beautiful day. So I just feel like I'm feeling very gay and very happy that I feel sad because I'm missing Pride in New York this year, but I'm hopeful to have some Missouri celebrations, even though they celebrate Pride in September, which is fascinating. But let us know what you're doing for Pride. Please go see a WNBA game. Damien, what are you doing that's super gay these days?
What am I doing that's super gay? Probably having gonorrhea, going to Fire Island and 4th of July weekend. I'm going to Chicago Pride instead of...
That's exciting.
It's sort of a work-related thing. So I'll be there, which will be interesting. And like, I'll be sad not to be in New York with my queer family, but I feel like at least I'll be doing something that is gay in a different cool city.
Yeah.
And I just finished binge watching The Ultimatum Queer Love, if that counts.
It 100% does. And thank you for making sure that it was on my radar, because it was exactly what I needed to sort of like, it was my comfort television these last couple of weeks. What is your main takeaway? For those of you that haven't watched The Queer Ultimatum, it's like women and non-binary folks put together in couples who said like, okay, if you're not ready to propose to me at the end of 3 weeks, then we're breaking up. And then they swap spouses, and it's full of mental illness and really low production values. And I loved every second of it. I feel like the major takeaway for most people was that like Vanessa was the nightmare, but I actually feel like she had the truest arc. And by the reunion, I was like, she's grown. She's grown. And Yoli, who I like loved and thought she was like the coolest at the beginning, I think is maybe a toxic, interesting character who I think is a Chicago party promoter. Oh my God, Damien. She's a Chicago party promoter. So you need to connect with her. I'm not even joking. At Chicago Pride, you need to like DM.
That's an interesting assessment that Vanessa had the most growth. Is that what you're arguing? Based
on the reunion. I think Lexi was more of a nightmare than anyone was prepared. And and then like, I feel like she presented as someone who like, you know, was like a little nuts trying to get engaged at 24, but also knew herself. But by the end, I was like, you're too much. I actually find you incredibly off-putting.
I believe that Xander and Yoli are going to come back to each other. What do you think?
Interesting. Because there was such a time difference between like when they were on the show and then when they did the reunion that like I could see that happening for both of them. And I feel like they're both like on a journey. I still think Mal is like the hottest and maybe the most normal one. And I hope that she finds happiness. But I was very invested in the entire thing.
Totally. I agree.
Okay, something that I think is important for queers and queer adjacents is that Elliot Page's autobiography is coming out soon, Page Boy. I'm very excited to read it. And I feel like the press has been really juicy. Mm-hmm. And the things that his publishers are releasing are so much more, not like explicit, but just like so much more candid and than I was prepared for, including that he like fucked his co-star Olivia Thirlby like throughout the like shooting of Juno, was in a relationship with Kate Mara, and was like dating a closeted actress for a long time who's still closeted. And I was like, wow, this is really not what I thought this book was going to be. I think he's so talented and really smart, and I'm so happy for him. I think I just thought it was going to be more of like a sociocultural political commentary about his journey, which of course this still is. It just felt like, oh my God, there's a lot of reveals happening. And then I listened to him on Fresh Air, and what he was talking about was really interesting, and his journey about working as an actor in costumes and conversations he had with production designers and producers as he was transitioning, pre-transition. All of it I thought was really fascinating and thoughtful, which is why I thought the way that the publicists were like pushing the book was so juicy compared to, I think, the way that he was talking about it, which I guess is like every time they pull a clip, you're like, okay, that's kind of titillating. But I feel like that's not really how the book is going to piece together. So I'm excited to read it.
Yeah, I think that you had verbalized this to me, but I think that it is surprising to me that this young sort of activist is choosing the route of like dishy tell-all, but I am very into it, you know?
Yeah, and I've been very into following like who I follow on Instagram is promoting the book, whether or not Elliot asked them to. But my favorite celebrity that is promoting the book is Paul Rubens, aka Pee Wee Herman, who was like, please read my longtime friend Elliot Page's book, Page Boy. I'm so proud of him. And I was like, I love this friendship so much.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a great queer rundown in honor of Pride Month. So without further ado, let's get to this month's episode.
We're so thrilled that we finally landed Angelica Ross, somebody that we've been courting for so long for this show, not just because both Damien and I loved her as Candy on Pose. I thought that her arc was transcendent, but obviously she's a famous Roxie Hart. And it is something that we dive into so deep that I don't even think we understood how deep we were going to get with Angelica about Chicago. But I am so excited for you all to hear this episode because I feel like she is such a brilliant actress, but also an activist. She's like a funny, smart producer. She's putting out incredible pop music just in time for Pride season. So I really can't hype this episode up enough. We were so thrilled to be joined by her, and we really hope you love it.
You might know her from Pose,
American Horror Story 1984,
American Horror Story Double Feature,
Claws,
Transparent,
and the Broadway production of Chicago.
Huge day for us here at You Might Know Her From. We are back, and we are with actress, singer, and activist Angelica Ross. Angelica, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We're very excited because your new single, Purr, came out on May 15th, just in time for Pride season.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Thanally you.
It's really a bop. So I'm very excited for you, and I'm excited that I feel like we're going to hear it all season, I hope.
I hope so too. Listen, I am so glad. That is the biggest compliment. Because I had several people tagging me on Instagram when it dropped. They're like, Angelica, this is an effing bop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the fact that people's initial reaction is that I'm just so excited. I cannot wait for Pride this summer.
Yeah, the girls are going to girl to it for sure, you know?
Yes.
So you said you grew up singing and dancing and doing theater. You appeared in Fame as a young person. You recently were in Chicago on Broadway. So when we were digging into your music catalog, I was like, how is performing this original music physically different than the vocals that are required for doing 8 shows a week as Roxie on Broadway?
Ooh, well, doing vocals on Broadway for 8 shows, they always say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And the situation was that I had been working with a vocal coach, Jay Gordon, for the past couple of years, preparing to release and work on music. And so it just happened to be great timing that the people over at Chicago called and was like, hey, would you be interested in doing this musical and doing Roxie Hart? And I was like, are you kidding me? I was nervous, of course, but I was just like, yes, I would love to do it. And I was so nervous because there's so much you have to do to try to protect your voice and keep it for 8 shows and not have it go out. And there was a couple of shows, like on that Sunday show, where I was starting to get a little hoarse, and I was just like, okay. But like for the most part, was able to every night pull out a very strong performance. After finishing Broadway, I felt as if I could do anything. And that's how I immediately went into the studio days later after finishing Broadway and wrote Purr with 2 other songwriters. And, you know, when you're doing music recording, I love performing live. I love it because it's all about, it's the moment, it's the energy, it's just live. You know, it's not about it being perfect, it's live. But recording the actual recording, you need to get them notes and everything perfect. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes, their technology is there, but I'm not trying to be that girl.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to be the girl. That's why with the Purr release, I released the acapella tracks too. Because I was like, I want you to hear, baby.
Yeah.
That she is on here yodeling. She's singing.
I'm obsessed with that.
So, you know, it takes a lot of focus, and it takes just skill.
I'm so happy for you. You were saying earlier that like you're in a really good, peaceful place, which I'm so happy to hear. And we're all rooting for a little bit of that energy this season. So maybe this is gauche because I'm not really like a purse person, but in Purr, you talk about having an expensive purse. So can you tell us like what is the most expensive purse that you've either bought for yourself or been gifted?
So let me get you a little hip to the lingo too. So the most expensive purse that I ever bought came from Thailand.
Yeah. 1,000%. 1,000%.
And so my thing is, you know, so in the community sometimes we say, you know, purse to refer to the thing that opens that also is supposed to hold the money. You understand what I'm saying?
1,000%. Yeah.
So yes, the most expensive purse I had bought was courtesy of Dr. Suporn Clinic in Thailand.
Beautiful. We're gonna link out to their work.
Yes, exactly. Amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, amazing work. This man is absolutely incredible. Like I love my purse.
I'm
and
so
I know,
glad.
And I know a lot of people that love my purse too. So I mean, not a lot. I don't want to be like a lot of people, but I know a few people that just love my purse.
Yeah, compliments to that doctor.
Yes. It's just so well made.
Oh my God.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Your music is great. Like it is catchy. It is giving Jordan Sparks, early Janet Jackson.
Yes.
Like it's really fun and good.
Thank you so much. And you know, I'm really, listen, hear me out when you hear me say this. I am a Black trans woman. So I have been, understand, like just being an everyday trans person, transition is hard. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and love what you see every day as it changes. And that includes your voice and loving your voice and learning your voice. I didn't always know how to use it. I was a drag queen working at the Kit Kat Lounge in Chicago, lip singing like everybody else. And then I finally just was like, no more. And on my last day, I brought my acoustic guitar to the drag bar and I performed songs, original music. And I can say that they were okay. You know what I'm saying? Like I was doing open mics and everything, but I started somewhere and I built. And so you hearing Purr right now, that's the result of me trying again until I got it good. Now I think I got it good. Now I think I'm on to something.
We're going to harken back to your turn last year in Chicago as Roxie Hart. Yes. So you made history because you were the first openly Black trans woman to have a leading role on Broadway. If you don't know, I don't know why you would, but Damien and I talk about Chicago constantly on this show because of the women that got to come in and out of it and the way that has kept people in this industry working for, 25 years. So the thing we love about the show is that it sort of allows the people coming in, particularly playing Roxie, to put their own mark on it. Like Charlotte D'Amboise dances more, and like Brandy riffed more, and like Lisa Rinna was Rinna-ing very hard. Do you feel like when you went in, you had the freedom to sort of make your own mark on it? And if so, can you tell us, like, who was your Roxie Hart?
Yes, I definitely was kind of affirmed and told right from the beginning that my Roxie is going to be like no other Roxie before. And that I had the freedom to sort of bring this unique color to Roxie. So there were so many different lines that, I took moments to even create these inside jokes where I was on stage and, like, say for instance, there's this moment where Roxie faints at the end of Act 1. And they're like, is she okay? And it's like, I'm fine. It's just that I'm going to have a baby. And then I look over to the audience like, and it's just this thing between us, you know what I mean? Like, because as a trans woman, so it's just like these little things where you don't have to change the lines, but that I was able to sort of bring myself. But also, I begged them, and they did. I begged them. I said, listen, push me to get it right. So, and I mean, they were giving me notes up until my last night. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I told them, I was like, if I miss this, if I miss that, whatever, they're like, okay, do this, do that. So I was always pushing myself. And I just remember working with like Charity Dawson, who plays Mama Morton. Like normally, my God, this girl is so immensely talented. Her voice is on another level. And so I just having affirmation from folks like her and other folks where they were like, I can see you every night turning the notch up, like on your performance, just turning it up. Like, because every night was a new performance. So I always could do something different. And I would just let go. And that's what the best thing as an actor is, to be able to let go. But not let go too much, because let me tell you what happened. I was singing Funny Honey on the ladder, and I'm up so high on this ladder that I can see the people in the balcony, like right across from me, eye level. And I'm singing, and at some point I'm supposed to swing over to the other side of the balcony and just kind of like continue singing. So I go to swing to the other side, and I I let go of the ladder, and I fall 2 rails down.
Angelica.
Listen, the audience would have never known it, but the chorus did. So what happened was, when I tell you I had failed 2 stories, caught myself and just swung around and kept singing. And the girl one of the girls in the chorus, she was like, girl. She was like, I caught that. She was like, I've never seen somebody do something like that. She was like, because I literally failed and just made it seem like it was a part of the show.
That's live theater, babe.
That's live, baby, live theater. It's my favorite. Live theater is my favorite thing to do, because every night, I'm telling you, I juiced it. I'm an actor that likes to like juice a moment, if you haven't noticed on Pose and different things. I love it. But let me tell you, so when I was on stage at the end and Roxie is lost it all, the press is leaving. She had her moments left and her husband's leaving. Every night I sat in that silence and processed the loss in front of everyone. And every night real tears came. I never had to force it. It was this moment that even as I started to sing, it's good. Isn't it great? I wouldn't even sing. And I could feel people. I could hear them sniffling. I could hear them breathing. Like, that is how connected you can be with live theater. And that's why they know, like, it's just something that any actor who truly loves the craft wants to do that kind of theater. It's just, sometimes the pay don't always make that possible. But, I was just like, okay, I could take a break from being Baller Miss Ross and go to Broadway for a second.
So I think this is correct. Your Velma was Amory Faye, and your Billy Flynn was Brandon Victor Dixon, yes?
Yes.
Like, they're both Broadway pros. I mean, Amory's like been in the show like off and on for years and years and years. Like, did they give you any pointers or tips?
Amory Faye writes, like, just wow. Like, I was in such awe of her from the moment she stepped foot into the rehearsal space. She's obviously a more mature woman, an older woman than myself. But I was just in such awe of her body, of her ability. When we first did our first run through, I remember doing the scene where she tells me to get out of her chair. And I'm like, who your chair? Who was you? You know, whatever. And she tells me, they tell me, oh, this is Velma Kelly, And I'm like, oh my goodness, So I'm like, oh, Miss Kelly, can I ask you a question? And she goes, what? And the way that she said that, it was just the way that she said what? I stopped rehearsal. Like I literally stopped the rehearsal. I said, okay, hold up. Okay. I was like, hold up. I was not ready. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for her to be that cold. I wasn't ready, but I'm ready now because bitch, I got you. I'm just as cold. So me and her, I loved working with her so much because working with her was an affirmation. We were standing toe to toe in many of those numbers. Now, don't get me wrong. Like sis was dancing circles around my ass. Like, let's just be real. But like, we were like the same height. There was this vibrato or something that we just carried with us that our energies worked so well off of each other. She taught me about myself just working with her, like taught me about myself, watching her. I felt in good company when I was coming off of the stage doing Me and My Baby. Winded. Winded. You hear me? Trying to drink, just winded. And then watching her have the same experience coming off of some of her numbers, you know what I'm saying? Like, but not just her, everybody. And it was sometimes the chorus people were coming off at one point. They said, listen, they said, thank you for being real about how hard this is. Because some celebrities come into this and try to pretend like this is not hard. And so we have to then pretend like it ain't hard. And so they're like, you allow us to just be real about how this is for us as well. So it was such an affirming experience. I mean, I grew up doing theater. So to be on the biggest stage in New York and week after week, night after night, have audiences enthusiastically give me standing ovations, be waiting by the stage door. It's something that I'm telling you, it's so visceral. The experience is so visceral because there were so many nights that I was sitting on top of that stage, on top of the piano, as the piano player is playing, as Miss Sunshine, Mary Sunshine is doing her number. And I'm watching and all, but my eyes are like a camcorder. And I was taking so much footage so that when I close my eyes, like I'm right back there. Like I know the stage. I can see somebody goofing off on stage, right, trying to get my attention. You know what I mean? Like it's something that I think I'm hoping that I will never forget. Never.
It's incredible. So the people that produce the show, the Weislers, are kind of like iconically odd. Did you get a chance to meet them? We're obsessed with the sort of legend of Fran and Barry Weisler.
Yes, I have. Yes, they yes. Yeah, they're great, Listen. What I will say is that, Barry was just very kind, during the process. And wherever I go, I realize that everything engagement is an opportunity. And sometimes we miss those opportunities when we don't speak up. Or we don't, whatever, say hello. You don't, whatever. And so, I had to speak up a few times. And I feel like they have learned a few things, with me being in that space. I teach and I teach gracefully. I don't teach in a scolding manner, even though, some folks out there would kind of portray it as we're always trying to attack folks to get it right and do this thing. That's not how it is. If people are showing an intention and a willingness to want to learn, then we can teach. And there were a couple teachable moments. One mainly teachable moment is that I had to really get them to understand. I remember not just Barry, but the main director guy is
Walter Bobby.
Yes, yeah. Walter. Yes. I had to explain to get them to explain because they were trying to tell me. I was telling them I was feeling uncomfortable on stage when Mary Sunshine was having her wig ripped off of her head, and the reveal was happening. Mm-hmm. And I was explaining why, and they were trying to tell me that Mary Sunshine is different than me. She's not trans like I am. And I was like, well, here's where you're wrong. And let's break this down and explain this to you. I know I didn't write it, but I'm going to tell you that Mary Sunshine is absolutely trans. And let me tell you why. Number one thing that RuPaul has had to come to the realization of is that all your contestants, sweetie, are trans. Mm. Whether they're coming out as transsexual women or whether we're starting to finally understand and realize that trans is an umbrella term that also includes transvestites, which is a very, very clinical term for drag queen. Right. You know what I mean? So,
were they receptive to this? Because like I'm here for a conversation about like Mary Sunshine and the lens and the like it's a period piece. Like this is a queer person, and were they open and receptive to this?
They were definitely open and receptive. It was a wonderful they were definitely open and receptive. Was there a little white splaining? Yes. Was there a little bit of whatever? But we worked through that. Because what I had to explain to them is, so let me just get you to understand this as a trans person. When you're a trans person, I use pronouns, like for me as a trans woman, I use pronouns she and her because those pronouns affirm my identity. When do we refer to Mary Sunshine as anything other than she, her, or miss, or Mary Sunshine? When do we see Mary Sunshine as anything other than how she presents as female or as feminine? The only time we see that is when her wig is ripped off. But even Billy Flynn knows her as Mary Sunshine and nothing else. She's trans, sweetie. She just might not be a transsexual, but she's absolutely trans. That she's not here in the show Chicago to do a drag performance. She's here to report a story.
Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with this, and I'm sort of sad to say it never even occurred to me to like think about it in that, which is like what Anne and I like to do, but I never even occurred to me to think about it. So you better tell Fran and Barry that.
Yeah, she's absolutely trans. Like, yeah, think about that. She's literally going out in public, talking to people every day, reporting on stories as a woman. Yeah, not anything else. So how can you not respect her as a trans person?
Was there a solve for the reveal with Roxie on stage? What happened?
There was. Yeah, there was. So all it came down to, I was like, listen, one thing will solve this. Thanks to RuPaul for coining the term a reveal. But let the girl have her own reveal. So instead, give her her own agency. Let her take off the wig. So it did add a little discomfort for Rob when he was doing it at first, because there's logistics. He's got to take off the wig, and then the thing has got to come off, and there's a certain timing to it all, and then to go out into the stage and do the whole thing like, look, I'm a man underneath and blah, 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 whatever. But like, I was just like, listen, as long as it's her choice, I'm good. Because you can't, that's what it all comes down to, trans or whatever. You got to realize, everybody that ain't trans, we don't all agree. Caitlyn Jenner, number one example. Right. So whatever the show that they want to do, she can do that as long as that's her choice. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? That's her choice. But I'm not going to sit here and stand for other people violating them when it's not their choice.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much.
Also, I feel like they're so lucky to have had you in the show, and I feel like maybe moved the show forward like 2 decades, honestly.
I feel that energy. I felt that with the cast. The cast is probably full of the most amazing human beings I have ever met. Some of them have been clocking in on that job for 25 years since the beginning.
Putting kids through college, like saving for their retirement. It's
there's one chorus member, Sharon. She's legally blind. She be on that stage. She's legally blind, y'all.
I love this show.
We be backstage, she be talking, looking this way, talking to me that way. Like, and she be so funny because she be backstage and she'll come backstage and she trips over this basket backstage all the time, but she does it on purpose. She knows it's there. She's just doing it to kind of gag the people who don't understand she's blind and just the whole thing. But like, she has figured it out. how to dance on stage blind.
That is incredible. Also, like, is she insurable? I don't care. Fran and Barry keeping her on stage, I appreciate it.
I think she must be, but like again, like just it does show that they have such a commitment to their work, to the people that have dedicated their lives to that show.
Yeah,
and they also like they were just so open arms to me the whole time, and it's just something that in the back of my brain, I'm just like, maybe I will go back one more time and maybe I go back and play Velma or something.
I think that's it.
Like,
yeah.
Because it was just such a great experience.
Okay, Angelica, let's get into it. You starred as Candy Ferocity on the Ryan Murphy helmed FX series Pose, of course, about New York's ballroom culture in the 80s and 90s. And the series was groundbreaking for having the largest cast of trans actors playing trans people, imagine that, on a TV series. So a lot has been written about Pose. But for us, the first thing we thought of was like, can you tell us where you were when you found out you booked the role? And what was the first thing you bought with that first paycheck?
I remember I was living in Moore Park, California, the suburbs of the suburbs of the suburbs. And I had a couple roommates and just was trying to like save money, you know what I'm saying? Like live the hustle of LA. And I pull into this shopping plaza and my phone rings and it's a call from my agent. And he's like, "Are you sitting down?" I was like, "I can be. What's going on?" Whatever. So like I got in my car, sat down, turned off the car. I was like, "What's going on?" And as they started to tell me what was going on, I just, like, the world kind of stopped around me. And I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Because I had auditioned months ago and heard back that I did not get the role because I had auditioned for the role of Blanca. And that was they were only auditioning 2 roles, Blanca and Electra. And it was so funny because after I got it, I got a call from Janet Mock too. And she was just like, she's like, I could not wait for them to tell you. She was like, I knew for months that they were going to be writing this role for you, but I couldn't tell you. So when you were so devastated that you didn't get the role, I wanted to console you. I wanted to say that things were going to be all right and that you were going to, whatever. But she's like, I just couldn't say anything. And, one thing that I really appreciated about Janet during that time is she made sure that I understood that our friendship, we actually ended up putting our friendship on hold. I was actually kind of upset about that, truth be told. But when we first started, she told me, she was like, I don't want anyone to sort of think or feel that you're getting special treatment because we were friends before. And so she would tell me all the time, she was like, when certain things would happen in the script and Candy would, she was like, just so you know, that's Ryan Murphy coming into the writer's room saying, we need to write this for Candy, or we need to do this, whatever. Or he comes in speaking in your voice all the time, wanting to add you, into the script. She was like, I'm not pushing that. That's you. You're getting that from your own talent. And I think that she was, she was really adamant about that because, her and I had a moment a few years back where she was trying to tell me about the industry being fickle and that they're going to have a trans moment and they're going to get over it. And so if you're not really here for the acting, and I was like trying to tell her, like, listen, this is my life. I've been acting since diapers. I have the resume. Like, this is what I've always wanted to do, sort of situation. And so then when she started to see me in action on set, she saw for herself that, oh, no, this girl really is an actor. And so she did everything to sort of like make sure I knew that not just because she was my friend, not just because she was trans, but because I was a good actor was why things were happening for me the way that they were.
And it's so clear of the course, the trajectory of the show, because like in season 2, you and Lulu start the House of Ferocity that includes former guest of this show, Jiggly Caliente. Did the House of Ferocity, did you guys like get together to try to create that camaraderie? Did you guys hang off set?
We absolutely hung all the time. I am a girl's girl. I am my sister and I am my sister's keeper. And so like, I saw Jiggly Caliente years before this. She was in a play at Yale University.
Yes, we talked to her about it.
Yeah.
And I came to see her in that, and she was amazing. And after the play was over, I came up to her and I was just like, sister, I see you. And just know that I know, because I am one of the girls who is also lip singing for tips, and understanding that I'm an actress, but this is the only stage that I'm allowed on right now. And just know that I see you, and that as the world opens up, that you deserve to take up space, because we've always been the stars that we are. It's just that the world wasn't ready, And so when House of Ferocity came about, I spent many days pouring into Jiggly, pouring into Laomi, and cause Laomi is hilarious. And the thing is that we would be on set, and of course, the lines would be written for me and for Lulu, because we were the principals, But I was trying to share with Laomi how Candy got her space. I got my space. I wasn't written on the page. I improv my way into Candy's role. You understand what I'm saying? So I was trying to tell her, like, girl, you are funny. Like, naturally funny. You got to learn to just. She's like, well, I don't want to be disrespectful, and I was like, you're not being disrespectful. You can learn how to do improvisation in a way that's working in concert with, that is like an accompaniment and a score. And I even explained this to so many of the people that were in extras on set, because so many people sometimes were trying to have their moment, and sometimes they would like be standing in my camera direction, speaking over people's lines and stuff. I'm like, girl, this ain't your moment. This is not your moment, girl. Like, but what I would say is, like, listen, think of this as us creating a symphony together. And sometimes there's the lead instrument, there's the background, there's rest. And sometimes you have to understand in music, the rest, the silence is so important to the moment. So know how to listen, so that when you say that, I know that's right, or whatever, it's coming at a right moment that is not overpowering Billy's lines, but it's hitting in that right moment that makes it that nice little color that's added to the music. This is how I move. I'm a celebrity, but I'm not this star that makes other people feel less than in my presence. I'm that kind of person that, again, reiterates, if you happen to be within earshot distance of me, if you happen to be in my presence, know that you are experiencing a reflection of something about you. So whatever there is, there's something here for you to take.
It's very generous too, because I feel like so much of the business is setting up this idea that you're in competition with each other, when in fact it's like there is enough pie for everybody, but that isn't the culture that is set. So I feel like it's...
Well, but that's not the way the industry works either, though. So, like, I mean, the thing is that there is a lot of work out here. But even with that being said, it's disproportionately given. So a lot of Black women aren't getting the roles that they deserve in Hollywood, let alone Black trans women, right? You understand what I'm saying? So, like, it is really that way, but you don't have to play into the competition dynamics. That's what they want you to do.
Yeah.
When you learn to set up, because this life sets you up as an entrepreneur. Whether you are a real estate agent or an actor, you're in charge of your business and how you show up. So when you make that sale for the month or whatever it is that you make, you need to budget that, so that if the sale doesn't come in the next couple of weeks or next month, that you're all right, and that you're not feeling like you need to all of a sudden jump into a feverish competition with everybody.
So in season 2, sadly for all of us, Candy is murdered in a motel doing sex work. And you were very vocal, and have been, about like the complicated feelings around this, around the dark-skinned trans woman being murdered, doing sex work. What kind of conversations, I guess, if any, did you have with the showrunners, the producers, about that coming in the pipeline?
What I remember is my phone ringing out of the blue. and it being Ryan Murphy. And I'm just like, okay. Like, I didn't know that we had that kind of, like rapport or whatever. So just call me up. Okay. So Ryan Murphy calls me up and he's like, hey, Angelica. He's like, he's like, I don't want to beat around the bush. I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off. I'm calling you because in episode 4 of season 2, Candy is going to be at the end of her life, and he was starting to explain it to me. And I'm listening, and he also in that same moment tells me that I'm going to be going on to American Horror Story. He didn't tell me about the role or what it was going to be, but that, don't worry, this is not a punitive thing. This is, we love you at the show. And he's like, and it's actually because we love you and because I think that you're the perfect actor to bring this storyline across. He just spoke into my abilities, like your sensibilities, the way you show up. He's like, I really feel like you're going to make people feel this. And, I'm someone who, when life presents me with certain things, I try to find the way to say yes, and I do believe it's because I said yes and didn't fight the moment that things unfolded the way that they did. But it was extremely difficult because I knew for weeks when no one else knew. So what ended up happening was Ryan Murphy gave me the episode before anyone else read it. He gave me the episode so that I can read it. And I was in a puddle of tears as I was reading it. As I was reading it, I was in a puddle of tears. I was a mess. And I didn't read it again. And so most of those episodes, most of the time, I just didn't rehearse any of those lines because the emotion was sitting on top of the page. And it was sitting on top of my chest that I did not want it to become stale. So I did another acting job. And while we were filming Pose, I acted like I wasn't mourning. I acted like everything was fine. And so I'm sitting with Lulu and we're talking about the future of the House of Ferocity and all the things we're going to do. And I'm just talking with her about it and not telling her I know that I'm not going to be on the show. And I felt terrible about that. But when the scene happened and I saw the performance come out of Haley, I was happy that I held on to that information. Not saying that it would have, but I felt the freshness of it. I felt the freshness of it coming from her. She was devastated. And the thing is that when we shot the last scene, Candy's sweet refrain, and she comes out of the casket and she's lip syncing "Never Knew Love Like This Before."
It's exquisite.
Electra ran out of the room, played by Dominique. Like most of the girls left the room and had to have their makeup redone because I'm getting teary-eyed even thinking about it right now. But whoo, it was you had to be there. And even though those folks that weren't, it felt like you were, watching it back. The love in that room was so palpable. You could feel that it was both for Candy and for Angelica. I just remember asking them if I could choreograph that myself. And they allowed me to choreograph that whole number myself, even including the boys and everything. When you have been a drag performer and you're a seasoned drag performer, there's a level of anchoring yourself in a performance where you don't even have to do too much and you can get people to react like those queens. And so when she steps down out of the casket and lightly touches this man's chin, it's just like, look at the life I'm living in heaven right now. And is walking by and singing these things, like I literally took my time. I took my time and I spoke to every single person in that ballroom. I don't even know how to explain what a gift that was for me. But what I am so honored and privileged to know is that I know it was a gift to so many other people. Not only because they tell me that, but I can feel it when they tell me. I can see it in their eyes.
It really is an exquisite episode of television, and in no small part because of your performance. And the finale is just like, it's really special.
Thank you.
Okay, Angelica. You've also appeared in 2 seasons of another Ryan Murphy project, American Horror Story. You were in 1984 and also double feature. So let's see if I get this right. In 1984, you played Donna Chambers, a psychologist masquerading as the camp nurse Rita, who I was very into. So Donna's father was a serial killer who killed himself in front of her, inspiring this study then of serial killers. And the character, goes on to say, like, she's interviewed Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy and the Freeway Killer. Are you, like, in preparation for that role, like, are you a true crime person, or, like, do you have a weak stomach for that kind of stuff?
I have an incredibly weak stomach. I mean, a weak stomach. So much so that, like, I stayed away from a lot of the special effects.
Oh, really? That scene with the dad and the woman on the bed was, like, too much for me.
It was too much for me. Like, so when I opened the door, you saw me like, like doing all this. Like, that was all, like, I'm just like, y'all, is y'all crazy? Like, what is going on this set? Is y'all, what is wrong with y'all? Like, but to be honest, like, and I never saw myself doing horror. I never saw myself doing horror. So when Ryan told me that I was going to American Horror Story, I was like, okay. And so I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I leveraged the hell out of that in my negotiations. I'm going to be real. Like, I didn't want to do horror. So when they came to me and then Ryan was like, okay, you're going to go it's fine. You're going to go to American Horror Story. So they sent me my offer and I look at the offer. I was like, oh no, that's okay.
Yeah.
They was like, well, excuse me? I was like, no, that's okay. Because I was like, that money's not good enough. The money's not good enough. I need you to come back with more money. And they were like, well, really, this is the best that we can do. When they told me it was the best that they could do, I said, okay. It would have been great to work with y'all, but I totally understand. When I tell you, they were so shocked. Because they're just like, huh? How dare I, black trans woman who's new in Hollywood, say no? But I said no. And then they came back with a bigger offer, and I was like, okay, now we're talking. So
good for you.
But it was one of those things where I wanted to solidify my worth, but also it's just like, no, like, we're not just going to automatically bounce off this narrative, black trans woman, and y'all, whatever, the network's getting all these cool points for hiring. No, y'all gonna also pay me. So thank you so much, FX, for the continual residual checks. Right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We love the Ryan Murphy universe. It's a wild ride. So you get to do this like incredible villain work in double feature, which was sort of 2 seasons for our listeners that aren't aware, because it was like filmed mid-pandemic. So there were like 5 episodes that were one storyline and 5 episodes that were another. In part 1, you played the chemist. So you're like cooking up this drug that stimulates people's artistic abilities, but like also sucks the nutrients out of their blood. So then they turn into this like Nosferatu character. In part 2, I'm obsessed with you playing this like alien human hybrid who does telekinesis with like one huge eye, and you implode Mamie Eisenhower's head. Perfection.
Yeah.
Because, like, did you feel like, because you had already lived through like one iteration of American Horror Story, that you were like seasoned to ride the wave of these insane plot points, or were you like totally taken aback?
Oh my God, let me tell you something. I was ready. After 1984, let me tell you something. American Horror Story 1984, I'm on set on Pose. And Ryan Murphy's telling me, "Oh, I can't wait for you to get to learn your role on American Horror Story." And I'm like, he's just teasing me, like, I can't wait for you to learn. So then finally he tells me, he's like, "Okay, all I'm gonna tell you is that you're Nurse Rita. So like you play the camp nurse." And I was like, okay. So day 1, I'm on set doing episode 1. All I know is I'm Nurse Rita. That's all I know.
Okay, great. This is our next question. You already answered it. You thought you were Nurse Rita day 1. That's all. You didn't have the knowledge yet.
I had no clue. Let me tell you something. So like, all I knew to play was real. All I knew was like, okay, bitch, just be real in this space, because I don't know where this is going, but I'm surrounded by a bunch of white people in the dark in a camp. So play that. I don't know. I'm off work. Y'all find your own stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just like, just play normal. So then as things start going along, I don't know what's going on. Then in one episode, I start seeing that I'm jabbing the girl in the neck with a needle, and I'm like, what is going on? So then there's a moment where I have to, I think it was I might have been episode 4, where I had to interview and talk to Mr. Jingles. And so I'm sitting across from Mr. Jingles, and you're seeing that I'm a psychiatrist or whatever, or psychologist. So I'm sitting across from him, mind you, moments before we start filming, and I'm sitting across from him. They tell me, okay, so maybe this information will help you out. Your father's a serial killer. You don't know this yet, but like it's in another episode, but your father's a serial killer. So you're trying, and I'm like, well, damn. I'm like, this information definitely would have been helpful. So like, I'm like, okay, so I'm processing it really quickly.
You're like doing work, and then you're like, okay, so no.
I'm processing this stuff quickly. So what I'm saying, what I brought to the character was Angelica Ross, the advocate who believes that no one is disposable. So that is how I was talking to him in that scene. Like, I know this, and finally, then obviously I knew that my father was, so I'm also trying to like also absolve myself and try to really get to the point that that's not in me either. Like I mean, even though my father, it's not a DNA thing. You're not born killers. This is something that is groomed by different ways, and I'm going to prove this to you. I'm going to prove it, So I had to arrive. As an actor, I'm always trying to find the thread of truth. Where is the thread of truth here for me? And that was it for me. And it kept changing. It literally kept changing.
Love.
So I was like, oh shit, I'm running the asylum now? Okay.
I think it was Adina Porter who we talked to. We asked that same question, and she was like, oh yeah, I was like a reporter for 7 episodes, and in episode 8 they were like, you're a witch, you've been a witch this whole time. I was like, what a pivot. I feel like the whole fucking cast should be given like a special award for what they're dealing with on AHS.
Well, not only, I think that the reward that we get sometimes are the roles and are what comes after that, because I call Ryan Murphy projects like extreme acting, like it's an extreme acting challenge.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get that script like right at the moment, and you got to learn it and know how to go with it. And I honestly feel like that has really helped me as an actor be able to stay fresh. When you're learning lines, even when it's as a chemist, and I had to like talk chemically and talk these words or whatever and spit it off like it was just something I knew and went to school for. It's really hard, but working with pros like Macaulay Culkin, Sarah Paulson. Sarah Paulson is like otherworldly to work with.
She was Mimi Eisenhower, right? You blew up her head or whatever, right?
Let me tell you, when I tell you, her and Leslie Grossman, like, we're standing around the girl with the thing that's got her head chopped off doing the baby, and they are both joking around, carrying on, like, and I don't know what they're joking on, going back and forth, blah blah blah. They're about to call action. They call action. I watch as both of them shut up and go right into character and into their life. And I'm sitting there like, how the, like, literally, but Mamie, why do you get to decide that? Like, and I'm just like, you hoes got this down. And there was a moment where Mamie Eisenhower, Sarah Paulson, thinks that my character, Theta, is going to allow her to kill the baby for the future. And as she goes with the scalpel to go do it, and I raise up my hand to freeze her, and she's frozen with the knife in her hand, I walk up to Sarah Paulson, walk up slowly. You really thought, whatever my lines was, and blah, blah. And so as I go and start speaking in her ear, over her shoulder, she's frozen. She even froze a teardrop on her eye. And when I tell you, I'm acting and I'm watching this teardrop on her eye, it's not moving. it's staying right there as a bubble. Like, you know, if you were doing HD on the lens, you would see a bubble of a tear in her eye, shaking. And she's shaking. And I'm like, whoa, how is this happening? And then the camera is doing this pan around shot. So she's covering me up for one moment because the camera's going around her. And I'm stuck. I'm stuck looking at her like, how is she doing this? And then the camera comes around and it reminds me, oh, bitch, you in the scene. So like, so I had to keep going. And as I start going, I say something, and then she lets the tear fall. And I just was like, now, I didn't watch the master class. I just seen a master class. And Sarah, she's just the most professional. She's on her line. She knows when to go. She knows when somebody else ain't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And she was an executive producer of that season. So Theta has this beautiful white couture looking Met Gala costume. Y'all seen it?
Yeah.
Everybody kept saying, girl, that's beautiful. That is a beautiful outfit. I was like, I know this is. It was like, oh, you should be able to. They were like, you wish you could keep that. I was like, listen, I wish I could keep this. But they said that this was like couture and custom made. It's only one of a kind, blah, blah, blah. Sarah Paulson looks over to me. She says, you can keep it. And she says, I'm executive producer of the show. You can keep it. And by the end of my shift, I'm taking off my makeup and whatever. They bring to me a garment bag with the dress in it and said, Miss Sarah Paulson said this, that you can have this.
She's good in my book. This is
Sarah Paulson. I'm telling you, I cannot wait to be able to work with her again. I was soaking up everything, watching and learning from her.
Okay, Angelica, so you mentioned this previously, but in 2014 you founded Trans Tech. This is a co-working and co-learning community. It's aimed at sort of providing training, mentorship, and employment for LGBTQ folks in the tech space specifically. So the international group centers transgender and gender nonconforming people in an effort to create this gender expansive, affirming, and sustainable tech industry that hopefully is like in all of our futures. Can you talk to us about forming this and also how you balance your work with them and your career as a performer?
Yes. Well, I will have to say, like, I am fortunate enough that it has been almost 10 years now since I founded Trans Tech in 2014. So next year is going to be our 10-year anniversary. I can't even believe, because my new executive director, E.C. Pizarro III, I was able to pass the baton off to him, and he's now running things over at Trans Tech. And I've been able to shift over to the founder seat and be an advisor and to continue to, watch this amazing community grow and expand far beyond what I was able to do. But I just remember in 2014, I had to create this space because I realized we were just constantly being undervalued, underestimated, and pushed into the lowest margins of society. And I knew that we deserved more and that we deserved to be able to access more. And so I quit my job working for another nonprofit, started this in 2014. And for me, the biggest message that Trans Tech holds is that technology can be that catalyst for anyone at the intersections of a really life-changing transition. That can be somebody who is coming out of incarceration their whole life and now is walking into a world that is completely different than when they entered into the prison system. That could be a woman who has finally realized her worth and is not giving her all to the patriarchy, but is now wanting to build her own business from the skills that she's built as a homemaker. And also for the trans person who is figuring out where they fit in and what they want to do. And so need more flexible work, something where it doesn't matter what they look like or sound like, as long as they can clock in and do the work. So for me, this was something about helping all of us, specifically trans people and those with the most layers of marginalization, but it's still a system that if we center the most marginalized, everyone else who chooses to be a part of it, a part of our community, is going to benefit from this, is going to benefit from when we advocate for family leave or medical leave in ways that you don't have to explain why you need it. But as a person, you just need family leave or medical leave.
Yeah.
Okay. Angelica Ross. We've entered the part of the show that we call rapid fire. Basically, we're wrapping up. This is anything else we got before we end our time with you. It's rapid for us. We're going to be throwing a lot at you. You can take your time if you need to. It doesn't need to be rapid for you.
Thank you.
Okay. You're credited in the 2005 Italian comedy Natale a Miami. How the hell did this Italian language Christmas film land on your plate? And what was it like being on what we assume was an all-Italian speaking set?
So the Natale a Miami was a great experience. It actually was at a really turning point in my career. I got the role in a very interesting way. The scene, there were principal roles meant for these characters. The main characters were going to go to a club. They were coming to Miami and spending Christmas in Miami. And so there was this block of time where they meet these girls at this club and then they bring them back to their place and this whole thing or whatever. And it's supposed to be a bit, obviously, that they meet these girls who are really, really, really trans women. And so, back in those times, beggars couldn't be choosy, So I was with a talent agency in South Florida, and for a while, they did not know I was trans. So then the agent finally came out to him, he was a gay white man, and I came out to him and told him I was a trans woman. So we conspired together. And so there was this role that came out that actually was casting for these roles for to play trans women, but they weren't necessarily looking for trans actors. That wasn't what the call was for. So when I got the role, no one knew I was trans except for like the casting director and maybe the director. The group of girls that I was with, none of them were trans. They were all women who had the trans aesthetic, whether it was plastic surgery, whether they were tall, whether it was whatever the situation was. So I remember one of the girls was actually jealous. It was a black girl. She was beautiful, tall, thin, Model-esque. She spoke full Italian and wondered why do she got the speaking roles and I speak full Italian. And it didn't make no sense to nobody. And I was sitting there speaking in full English. And they dubbed my voice in Italian, But that was one solid that the director did, is that he told no one on that set that I was trans. But I did influence them by telling them, listen, actually what you're asking me to do is very unrealistic and problematic, but I'm going to go along with it. But the reason why I'm going to go along with it is I'm letting you know I'm playing this role as drunk. So when I go to the water and I pee in the water and just whatever, it's because I'm just drunk and I just want to do this right now because ain't no way in the world no trans person is doing this on any given Sunday. And I had to explain that to them, but they wanted this bit in there to be funny. Now, here's where I sit on the middle line of that. It was problematic as hell, but I am a comedy. I haven't got many chances to show this, but I am a comedy actor. And so when you go back and you see that clip, you'll see that I'm using my physical comedy. I understand that I have an afro that is a geometric shape on my head, so that when I go to pee and finally let it all out, I make sure that I'm able to cock my head back and boom, drop it all the way back as I'm doing it. And I can't really do it all the way right now because my neck is a little sore. But like the way I drop my head back, it was physical comedy and it was really funny in the moment.
Yeah.
So, I went along with the bit, but it definitely was a different time in the industry where we just had to accept what was given.
Yeah. Okay, Angelica, you play a character named Diana Ross Diva on an episode of Transparent. Did you have a Miss Diana Ross in your back pocket?
I'm a queen, especially a black queen, I'm a former pageant girl. Doing Diana Ross is part of the curriculum 101.
Yeah.
Like, as a black queen, you have to know how to do. I don't know about this day and age. Like, I don't know if the kids are doing it this day. But, like, coming up, you couldn't even get booked nowhere unless you knew how to do Diana Ross. Yeah. So, Yes, I definitely, Diana Ross is in my blood. Hence the name,
right?
Angelica Ross. Yes.
You play a character named Relevance on 3 episodes of Claws. You're introduced when you're actually neti potting while talking to Niecy Nash. So the question, it's very important. How many times did you have to do that take? And how many times were you neti potting?
Oh my God. I thought they were trying to punk me or something, because I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, why do I have to do this? And like, and so I did it a couple times, and it was just the most uncomfortable feeling of, doing this whole thing. But it really did help me as an actor. Again, one of the things that my acting teacher, we always do when we're acting is I'm giving away some of my tools here, but we always find business for me to do. So I'm not just always just standing there talking. Sometimes I'm filing my nails as I'm talking. I know you lying and blah, blah, blah. Or sometimes I'm like the neti, but I'm now like, I remember Gwyneth Porter Payton was a director on Pose, but she also came over to American Horror Story. And they were trying to get me to do some stuff with some props. And she goes, "Oh, Angelica's the queen of acting with props." Because I've just gotten to this place of being able to juggle things while still giving the note. And girl, I'm like, girl, I just can't, you gotta, whatever's coming up, you gotta work with it.
Yeah. We believe in neti pots here.
I do it every day in the shower.
I had to do it several times. I remember one time Niecy was like, "Wait a minute." Because like she was knocking on the door. It's relevant, looking for who she's looking for. And I slammed the door. And she did not expect me to just slam the door in her face or something. I was just like, "Girl," and she was like, "Hold up, blah, blah, blah." And but it was like we had this natural rapport with each other. And right away, Niecy was like, "Okay, girl, I see you. You got it."
Yeah. Angelica Ross, we're going to wrap up here with one very stupid question. Someone told me years ago that Angela Lansbury's pre-show meal was a steak and lime jello. You were doing 8 shows a week as Roxie, as discussed. Talk to us about your pre-show ritual. What did Roxie eat for a 5-show weekend?
Okay, so 5-show weekend. Here's what this tea was. So usually I try to keep it healthy, and there was a place called Dig around the corner from the theater that would give like fresh food options. But I'm going to tell you what real tea was. After I was done with the show, every day I would get home really, really late, and I would go to Harlem. Right down the street from where I was staying, there was a Jamaican place called King Barca. It was a Jamaican place open 24 hours. So every day that I got off, after every show, I got this large jerk chicken with rice and peas, macaroni and cheese and cabbage, and got my life.
God bless New York.
Yes.
Angelica Ross, thank you so much for being with us on the show today. It's been an absolute delight.
Oh, this was a great conversation. I can't wait for folks to just cozy up to this conversation.
I have to say that Angelica's theory that Mary Sunshine is trans and looking at it through the queer lens I've been thinking about it since the interview. I thought it was such a cool idea that had never crossed my mind, surprisingly. And so sort of positioning that, like, I don't know that it changes the show, but I liked that idea, and I loved that she went toe to toe with Fran and Barry about it.
100%. And also just this idea of, as she said, giving this character agency, because this is what changes it for her in the show. I think that makes complete sense. And I'm wondering if the show kept that moving forward. Do we know? Like, I feel I'm not sure if they kept that for Mary Sunshine, that she is removing the wig herself now, because I feel like her having those conversations with Walter, Bobby, and Fran and Barry is really just giving the show an opportunity to grow in ways that I feel like that show is very smart and very funny. It was very prescient, but it's hard for the theater for some reason to get away from the very basic base joke of a man in a dress, which Mary Sunshine plays into. And I feel like Angelica gave them an opportunity to sort of step into 2023 and also do right by the character. So yeah, I agree. I was really gobsmacked that we got to dive in as deep as we did with her on the show and her experience with it. Also, just like learning about what she does with trans tech and the work that she does as an activist is incredible. And meanwhile, she's also producing her own album. I just feel like she is so wonderful and smart and funny and charming and brilliant. And I just... please just go buy Purr. Just go buy Purr. Go download it. Go send it to friends. Make sure people are spending money on it, because I feel like we want to get that full-length album from her, at least an EP.
For sure. I thought it was so good, and I feel like it is always just, we say this ad nauseum, but when we dig into the bodies of work of the actors that we have on the show, it is always just exciting to find pieces, and I was thrilled to listen to her music and then be like, this is good. So yes, put it on your Pride playlist, put on your 4th of July, cookout, barbecue at the beach playlist, give her those streams, give her your money. Yeah, what a really fun interview. I mean, also talking about American Horror Story, where she was like, then they were like, your dad is a serial killer. You don't know this yet, but your dad's a serial killer. And she was like, okay, cool. And
that is like the part of the Ryan Murphy universe that keeps me coming back. It's just like really watching actors have to be as nimble as possible with the material they're given, because I'll give it to him. He cast a really great show. Also, good tea on Sarah Paulson's ability to hold a tear in her eyeball. I mean, I guess that's why she keeps coming back to the universe. It's like, like only she can do what she does.
Also, Sarah Paulson playing Mimi Eisenhower, getting her head exploded. It's just like it
incredible.
Is so stupid and gay, and I love it. It is kind of. Do you remember that UCB show that they used to do, Gravid Water, where it'd be like half improv, half people acting with a script? I feel like that's what American Horror Story is. It's like they get a script and they're like, great, and then it's like, okay, now get rid of your scripts and just go. And it's like,
right. Some of you know what you're doing. Some of you will not know until post-production what you were playing.
Yes.
I hope that she gets brought back again. I think she's so good, and she was such a delight. Folks, it's Pride season, so the least homophobic thing you could do this month is to leave us a 5-star review and get any straight people you know to do the same, and that can be their service for Pride Month. Okay, we need 5 stars on the Apple Podcast app. I'm not even asking kindly. Just do it.
We need written reviews, too. Like, if you, as a human being, get 3 new reviews, so like you, your partner, your mom, your dad, your grandparent, your step-parent, your neighbor, the person you're fucking, your best friend, whatever. If you get us 3 written reviews from you, we'll send you gifts. I don't know what we'll send you, but I know we have things. We have books that we've talked about. We have tchotchkes. We have
We'll get you the cream cheese cookbook.
We have.
We've got goodies.
So if you really turn it out for us and give us 3+ reviews and send us proof of that via email, DM, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you want to send those things, make sure it's one of those places. We're not going to check Facebook. Then we will send you will get your address and we will send you tokens of our appreciation. We're an independently produced podcast. It's the best thing you can do for us to make us be able to keep doing this thing, which we love to do, but we need to be boosting that algorithm, babe. I mean, iHeartRadio is just churning shit out, and they're getting the views, and we need the help.
Did you hear that Meghan Markle just got fired from her fucking $20 million podcast deal for producing 12 episodes in 3 years? Look at she got $20 million. I'm just saying, we are giving you the goods. Please hit us up with those reviews. We will make it worth your motherfucking while.
And while you're at it, folks, if you're into this, if you're into us talking about the ultimatum queer love, if you're into us talking about Mary Sunshine being a trans person, if you're into the Broadway chatter, if you're into the Kim Cattrall, we are on her side chatter, follow us on social media. You can find me at Damian Bellino, that's Damian Bellino, and all of the things. And you can find my best friend, my soulmate, my creative partner, my writing partner, my co-host, the person who I would give my passwords to delete all of the things if I die before them. You can find Anne Rodeman on all of the things at Rodeman. That is RODEMANNE.
I've got you covered. It's just literally like a Control-Alt-Delete of everything that you've ever written online.
Thanks,
as soon as you pass.
Also, you can find the show's Instagram and TikTok at You Might Know Her From. There we are posting reels from past episodes. We're also sharing photos, videos of actresses that have been on the show, actresses that we would love to have on the show, and actresses that sadly are dead, but we would have wanted to have on the show if they were still alive. So follow us there for extra bonus content. Please and thank you.
We always need to and desire to give special thanks to our consultants over at Grumpy Entertainment. That is obviously Jason Jude Hill and Danielle Sears, and every bit of editing you hear on this episode is courtesy of the genius, Danielle Sears. Thank you, Danielle.
Special shout out to Gang. All that music you hear underscoring each and every episode is by Gang. Gang is 3/4 women. Gang is from Philadelphia, and we love Gang. You can download and stream Gang wherever you listen to your music.
And if you need to see that clip of Angelica Ross neti potting on claws, guess where you're going to find it? In the show notes. That's where I catalog each and everything we discuss on this show. You're also going to find the link to Purr, where you are going to spend money on it. That's where everything goes. Please explore the show notes. There's a treasure trove of goodies just for you.
I've been playing with this new game. I don't think it's new. I think it's old, but it's called Akinator, and it's basically a genie. And it like guesses the quote unquote character that you have in your head. So say you come to it and you're like in your head, I'm thinking of Annie Warbucks, and so you just like it'll say like, is your character animated? Is your character whatever? It's so fun and stupid. Download it if you're into this sort of thing. But what it has unearthed all these different pockets of deep like knowledge for stupid shit in my brain. And what I've been thinking about lately that is just like bringing me pleasure is fictional characters that are, I don't know what even the word for it is. It's been making me think of characters that are like gelatinous things that are like don't have
like Slimer.
Yes, like Slimer.
Like Grimace? Like, is Grimace gelatinous?
I don't think, no, because he has arms.
He's too solid.
Yeah, he's like
arms.
a purple chicken tender with arms and legs. But like Goo from Gumby, love her. She literally had a blonde ponytail, and she is a little blue turd that slides. I was like, I love her. And then I was like,
I don't think I know who this is. Hold on, I have to look this person up.
Goo?
Goo from Gumby?
Goo. She is so cool. She's so my type.
She's incredible.
She's my type.
She totally is. She's a yellow-haired woman, and you know she's a quote-unquote woman because they put fucking eyelashes on her eyeballs and a bow on her head. That's the only
I love Goo so much. And then I was thinking of Gloppy from Candyland, who I also love so much.
We love Gloppy, yeah.
So I've just been any characters you can think of. If you listen this far.
Okay, so I just discovered the Raggedy Ann movie from 1978, this animated film that I am obsessed with. I had never seen it before. I don't know how I didn't. It's incredible. The whole thing is online, and there's this character named like, what is it's like this giant taffy
or like
pit.
the taffy monster or something, right?
Yeah, it's like literally a taffy pit. Anyway, the animation is incredible. The music is so good, and I can't wait to go watch the whole thing. I loved it so much. But the taffy monster is definitely, I think it's called the taffy pit. Let me just look it up. Hold on. Are any of you familiar with this? Okay, the character's name is the Greedy, and he lives in the taffy pit. The Greedy is for sure gelatinous. Look him up.
Well, if you like Goo and you think of other people that are like Goo and Gloppy and the Greedy, all G's by the way, then send them our way.
Onomatopoeia.